There, I'm Smith. I'm 13 and I'm a tramp. This is my story about how I ended up on the street. My parents were quite strict. They're a little over 40 and they have outdated views on life, so they don't understand me at all. The thing is, they're politicians. They came from the aristocracy and they got their titles by inheritance from their parents. So I was supposed to become the next generation politician. I got taught the right manners and etiquette ever since my birth. I visited all the events with my parents, and of course, from early childhood, I was surrounded by the same aristocrats. Following tradition, my parents' friends came to our house every Saturday with their kids. The adults talked and listened to classical music, and then they would show off each other their kids' talents. My parents decided that I had musical talent, so every Saturday, I played piano for our guests. To save them from shame, I had to have piano classes every day for 4 hours. Can you imagine what hell that was? To be frank, I'm not a gifted pianist, and I just hate music, but playing the instrument always impressed our guests. If you don't understand how I did that without being gifted, then try to work on the same rhythm. I tell you, in a month, any of you would play better than Ray Charles. I tried to explain I didn't want to do what I don't like, but they didn't want to hear anything. They would simply be laughed at if I suddenly decided to give up the music. The opinion of others was their first priority. Apart from playing the piano, I studied French 3 times a week for 3 hours and danced 3 times a week because any aristocrat must dance at dinner parties. I always felt like it wasn't my life. Some kind of mistake must have happened. I shouldn't have been born in this family. I felt like a stranger here. One day, I met Michael. He was a street kid of about my age who sometimes delivered newspapers. My parents weren't at home when he brought us another paper. We got to talking, and I wanted to get to know him better. I found out Michael was 16, and he had already left home 3 years prior. His stepfather used to beat him. I really enjoyed talking to him, and when my parents weren't at home, I invited him to my place, and we had a great time. So I had a real friend from another social class, and I didn't tell anyone about him. After some time, I decided to leave my home and become homeless, just like my friend. I wanted freedom and a different world which I only knew about from Michael. Having packed my things, I wrote a note for my parents. I wrote everything I thought about them and about my life that I never dared say out loud. I wrote that I wouldn't let them break my life and make me a cold hypocrite like them and their friends. I wouldn't let them decide for me how to live and what to do. I was tired of them and their stupid traditions. I was already an adult, so I made my choice for another life, and they'd better not look for me. Michael helped me escape and showed me where to spend the first night. He also introduced me to other street kids. On the first day, I realized that everything Michael told me wasn't so good at all. I used to sleep on my soft bed on a snow-white sheet, and now I had to sleep on the boards with a dirty blanket. It was tough and unpleasant. In the morning, instead of coffee in bed and a posh breakfast, I would go out with the other guys to the street and beg for food. But there were some positive moments in my new life. I had heard homeless kids are very dangerous and that it's better to stay away from them. They turned out to be just usual teenagers, just a little more independent and freedom-loving. A couple of weeks later, Michael ran up to me and said some people were looking for me. They held my photo and asked all the homeless about me. That day, I hid to not cross paths with them. It became clear that Dad hired these people. Most likely they were private detectives, so I became more careful for them not to find me, though deep down inside, I started to think about going back home. But to do that meant to admit my defeat. I had written to my parents that I would live without them. During these 2 weeks, I lost some weight. I was sick of the food I had to eat. I dreamed of taking a warm bath with bubbles and changing into clean, ironed clothes. I actually didn't sleep because I couldn't get used to the new pitiful version of a bed that I had to sleep on. Soon, a fight broke out near our home. I was badly beaten by the street kids from another area. That day, Michael told me the street wasn't for me because I don't even know how to defend myself, and for me, it was a shock to be beaten by someone because he's from another territory. I wasn't taught this way, and I wasn't ready for this. And yesterday something happened. I thought once again, maybe this life isn't for me at all. In the evening, Michael and me had a fight because I ate an extra piece of pizza. He was so angry with me as if something terrible had happened. I was hurt. I was hurt that it was so easy to quarrel with a friend over food, and I decided to leave to not make the situation any worse. Since that night, I've been walking around the city and thinking about what I have to do now. Stay there and become one of these homeless kids, or return home telling my parents that I'm nobody without them? In the first case, I'd have to get used to such inhumane conditions for a long time, but I'd get freedom. In the second case, I'd need to ditch my beliefs, apologize to my parents, and return to my usual life. I'd then put up with obeying my parents and their status, so I'll be forced to play the dreadful music once again and entertain our family friends on weekends. And then I'd grow up and turn into another hypocritical adult, caving to society and being perfect in the eyes of my peers. Still, if I return home, I could build houses for the homeless in the future. There, they live in good conditions. There, they would have bathrooms, TV, good food, and soft beds. So, guys, it seems to me that without your help, I won't be able to make a decision. Write in the comments what I should do: stay on the street or get back home. Like this video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new stories.